the goal is to be average. That's the highest point that any of us can reach. So I'm Paulina. I'm the founder of Mindset Mastery Tribe. My mission in life is really to help ex-corporate business owners transcend the limitations of their old life and become whole new people and build big, beautiful businesses. There was a lot of rules. There was a lot of things that I had to do and a lot of shoulds. Everything was about survival and safety. So if I was too little to go to school, but if I didn't learn to read or learn English, I went to English classes or any of that stuff. It was just somehow translated to me as not only would I not be successful, but I wouldn't survive, because these are things that people need in order to even eat. What they have always taught me, and clearly what they've believed, is that the goal is to be average. That's the highest point that any of us can reach. Normal people don't have a lot of success. Normal people don't go into careers like music or art or anything like that. You just go into a really normal career, like an engineer, is what I was told. And then you can succeed, because any average Joe can succeed if you're an engineer, although I didn't. So that part, there wasn't really a lot of stereotypes. I kind of grew up just, I think, like a boy would have. Yes, I was supposed to get married, but it wasn't like the guy was ever supposed to take care of me. It was like you're partners and you both work. So I was always told I could succeed as much as a man can. I didn't really feel the communist system because I was 6 when I left, but what I did feel is survival, because the communist system, it's a hoax, right? What was that movie where they showed communism? I don't remember what it was, but it looks like it's all glossy and beautiful on the outside, but everyone's poor and sad and miserable. And so it became completely normal to be just kind of poor and sad. Not to mention, all these people in communism, like my parents, are first generation post World War II. All those people starved and lost all their families. So kind of just sad and average is really the goal. Probably because my mom my grandma, everyone hated everything, because it's like you put a lot of rules on people, they're always going to think the grass is always greener, right? I even remember when we left and came to the US, my mother was like, I do not ever want to see or think about or go back to that place again. I mean, I lived in Saint Petersburg, so there was a lot of beauty, there was a lot of art. And now I appreciate it, now that New York doesn't hold a candle to Saint Petersburg, Russia, but you don't really appreciate it when you're there because you're so just busy surviving. So my mom was like a very strong person. She was a survivor. She kind of taught me this mentality of just make it work. It wasn't, again, happiness wasn't the goal. It was about like, just make it work and survive, whether it's work or marriage. It was like, okay, if you can get a husband and he can provide for you, you're winning. Like if you got the baseline, you're winning. If you can get a job and it gives you an average salary, you're winning. Like your goal is to have an average husband. You don't even have to like him very much, but as long as he works and brings home enough money and you have a job and you both have enough money, you're good. There was nothing even described to me beyond that. She was completely independent. She ran our household, but my parents kind of grew up in the same mentality, so it wasn't that they disagreed on anything. Both of their goals was just survival, and that's how we always lived. I don't remember either of my parents having any dreams or goals ever. That didn't even, I don't think I even understood the concept until I moved to the US. So this is like a controversial topic. I was very close to my mom, and I love my mom. And she did teach me how to be like the confident person that I am. But my mentor, David Nagel, said something that I don't think anybody would say. He said that you don't fully get to become the biggest and best version of yourself until your parents die. Because, especially me, like I wanted to be a really good girl and please my parents and all that stuff. And so I always did as I was told. So I think that when my mom died, I did feel very alone, and I did follow her rules for the next sort of few years of my life. But after that, it was kind of my choice. Like I didn't have these like find a guy and survive rules anymore, which by the way, I did when she was alive, and that was a huge mistake, right? But after I finished that chapter of my life that she guided me on, I got to create my own life, which was way better. I do wish she would have witnessed it, but to be honest, I just don't know if I would be here, because I really wanted to please my mom. Like I wanted to do the right thing, and I was always getting like advice from her to do the right thing. And I don't know, she didn't give me bad advice. She did give me a lot of good advice, but it was all rooted in safety and survival. My mom did not give a fuck. Like she was the type of person that was like, you know what, let's clean the house after the guests leave, because why waste time if they're gonna dirty it anyways? Like she had no interest in looking a certain way to anyone or pleasing anyone. She was super confident. I don't ever remember her getting dressed up for a guy like my dad, or like, yeah, she wanted to look good, but there was never this sense of needing external approval. So I have a lot of the balls to say things today because of my mom, or do things in a certain way today. So although she taught me that the ceiling was average, she also kind of, without meaning to, showed me that like, you can do and say whatever the fuck you want. Oh my gosh, it was terrifying, because we moved to California, to like a little town called Pacific Grove in California. And the culture was so different. So as most people know, Russians, they're kind of stone-faced. And it's not that they're mean, it's just not in the culture to be going around smiling and saying hello to random strangers. And so when you walk into a store or you see your neighbor, you don't say hello, you don't ask them how they're doing unless you actually care. So I come to California. First of all, everyone's barefoot. And I'm just like, oh my God, they're gonna die, because my parents and my grandma taught me, like, you can't not wear shoes. Like, that's ew. Not only ill, but you'll get sick and die. No one's wearing shoes, and everyone's like, hi. And I'm like, oh my God, what do they want from me? And so it was very overwhelming and everyone was super sweet, trying to be nice. Like, oh, this little girl just moved from Russia. And I'm just like, why are they all like coming at me and in my face? And I got used to it eventually, but I never really got used to it, which is why I'm better suited in New York. California culture is just a little too fakey for me. Oh my gosh, New York was like a coming home. When I was in California, I tried living in different cities. I tried living in San Francisco, and then before that I lived in downtown San Jose, because I grew up in San Jose, and it was never really a fit. As soon as I got off the plane in New York, I'm like, let's go. It was just so much more comfortable for me. I felt like people were more like me. Like, no shade to Californians, but like, you know, more kind of down to earth, like old soul type of people. And they're not always in your face, like smiling at you, but when you're like, leave me alone. And I don't have to smile at them. Yeah, I was 30. I mean, even though that my parents' goal was to be average, my dad especially, the dick that he is, but he's always striving for the best, right? So not everyone moved, like we had to fight for 10 years to move to the US. And he's like, no, like this is what we're doing. We're gonna escape communism. So I've always had it in me to kind of like climb. And I think that everyone, including me, should always strive to have the best life. And the best life means, first of all, internally, and also as a result of that is externally. So I'm always seeking for it, like how to have the best experience on earth. And honestly, the more I learn, the better it becomes. What did I have to unlearn? I mean, the general path given to, I call it the middle class mindset. So the general path given to the middle class is not it. That's not what you want to be doing. I kind of had to learn that just because everyone around you is doing something, it actually probably means that it's the wrong thing to do, because most people are average, most people are basic. So it's become my worst nightmare to be average, because that's what I was always taught was like the top, right? And I'm like, I'm never gonna stay at the top. So if someone around you is saying like, oh, tell your kid to go to college, or you have to go to college, or, you know, get a job or whatever, that's probably the wrong thing to do. You have to unlearn to listen to people and make up your own path based on the data that you gather, based on the stuff that you learn. I leave. I did not belong in San Francisco, and I left. Multiple marriages, right? Like, if I don't like it, I leave. If it's not fixable, I leave. There's nothing that bothers me more than people that sit around and complain about their lives. If you don't like it, leave, fix it, change it. America does not owe anyone shit. Like, I'm a person that, I don't know, I'm not very political, but call me Republican based on what I'm about to say. Like, it's everyone for themselves. Like, everyone has it in them and has the tools to become, and especially with the internet and the wealth of information, everyone has it in them to become the best, most expansive versions of themselves. If you're asking for a handout, you're kind of devaluing yourself. America does not owe me shit. For a long time, I worked in corporate and I was like, oh, this is so nice. They give me matching on my 401k and health insurance or whatever. And now I pay for my own health insurance and it's fine. Like, it's fine. I'm still alive. I'm here. Yeah, so it's actually a funny story. Right before I moved to New York, I decided, I was, in my late 20s. So I was just like, let's just go everywhere and do whatever. I went to Argentina for a couple months and I stayed with this girl, like an old friend, and she was really into this dance called Zouk. And so, and I loved it. I was like, oh my God, Zouk is so fun. I love, dance and moving the body in general. Not that I was ever a dancer as a kid, but again, that's because you had to survive. Dance wasn't a part of that. And so as soon as I got into Zouk, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I feel really good doing this. So as soon as I moved to New York, I'm like, okay, New York has everything. Let's go find Zouk. And there were all of like 10 people that danced Zouk in New York, but all the places that they had the Zouk classes had 5,000 salsa classes, because New York salsa is where it's at, right? So I was like, okay, well, I have like a month unlimited or whatever, so I'll just do the salsa classes. And the salsa community in New York, and in general, all over the world, it's just like such a warm, like you can travel anywhere and go salsa dancing and you'll meet people that you saw in New York. So I got like very entrenched in the salsa community. I love to dance. It was something that you could do when you move to New York and you want to go out every night. You can go out every night and not drink and actually get a workout while you're doing it and have a really, really good time. And then I got into competitions because I'm always someone that's like pushing forward, like how can I do more? And that was really fun, like being on stage and working towards something, because I had a corporate job, so I had to work towards something, and salsa was it. Yeah. When you're dancing, you're not thinking. We're talking about that in the tribe this week. There is a space where you can think while you dance, and then you dance really badly. But eventually you learn to not think when you dance, and then you connect from the consciousness of love, which we learned, right? And you're just flowing, and it's like the best feeling. Absolutely. It's the same exact thing in business. And the problem with all this stuff is like, just like in salsa, old habits die hard. Like it takes a while to not be performative and be like, oh my God, am I doing this right? But once you relax, it flows. Business is the same thing. You so want to be good and you so want to succeed. So you do all the things that you're supposed to do. But generally, if you're a coach or consultant or something like that, it's not really about tactics. It's about being able to feel the person and being able to make them be seen. And that's not a tactic, that's energy, right? Exactly the same as dance. So it takes a while. First, you have to be like, oh my God, do I suck? I don't suck. Am I actually helping people? Once you help a few people and you transcend that, and you can kind of like stop judging and performing every little thing, you get into this flow where you're like, you know what, I've talked to a few people just like you before. I get you. And they're like, oh yeah, I can see that you get me. And then you help. And then everyone's happy. And the money comes. For me, the way that I think about it is like, you know that feeling when you're a little, or you could be an adult too, and you're standing on a really tall diving board and you're just like, oh my God, it's so high. Oh my God, it's so scary, da-da-da. But then eventually you're just like, just go, right? That's what you have to do. Like, instead of like thinking about how terrifying it is, like just go. And that's what you have to do in business. That's what you have to do in performing, right? It's freaking terrifying performing in front of a bunch of people. And then you just go. And once you get into it, it gets easier. But it's like just that little part of standing on the diving board waiting to jump that you have to get past and just go. The energy is the same because especially salsa and bachata dancing, like it's more of like a put yourself out there kind of sexually forward dance. And so you have to be really comfortable with yourself and feel really confident. And you could see the dancers out there that are not. And they're not doing any, like, okay, there's two types of salsa in New York, probably more than two, but two like main categories. And one is like all the uptown salsa, which is just like dance as fast as you can, speed up the music. But then the way that I was taught, it was like very ballroomy salsa. And so you have no choice in the spaces between the music to like slow down and like show your body, right? And you can't be scared or not confident. You can't hide behind the steps. And I think you have to do that when you're leading too, because I've seen from the tribe members that leadership is fucking scary. Like people are really scared to stand on stage and say, okay, like I'm now going to be completely exposed and tell people what to do. And now they're counting on me. So you have to really have the confidence in yourself to be able to slow down and do that and trust that people will benefit from following you. Words have to have energy behind them. If they're just words, they don't do anything. But dance is all energy. There's no words. So you don't get to fake it. And if so, you're going to be found out a lot faster. With words, you might be able to fake it a little bit longer, but not really, because people feel energy and they don't even realize they feel it. That's the great thing about dance. It was not related to survival. I go dancing when I'm in a good mood, and so I get more in a good mood. I've never been the person that's like, oh my God, my life sucks. I've had the worst day ever. I'm just going to go dance it off. Like, if I've had the worst day ever, I'm sitting on the couch with a glass of wine. I don't think she has any idea how much shit I've been through and like how much I've come out of. Like, I think she sees that life is like pretty easy. I mean, she does see me working a lot, but she sees life as pretty easy. But if she knew half the shit that I went through, she'd be like, oh damn, my mom's strong. I want her to say that I was strong, successful, nonconformist, always taught her to be the best version of herself and did the same thing for me and for us. And that I made an impact in the world and wasn't just like going to work every day. So it's funny, like I got pregnant accidentally, but I got pregnant at a very good age in my life. It was just after I was done being a 20-something-year-old, but before I was like, oh, I'm old. And you know, when I had Nicoletta, I was financially comfortable by that time, so I had the help, so it was pretty easy. But I'm like a rigid person, and I'm always like, things should be like this. And so before I had her, I was like, okay, she's only gonna have the sensory toys and like all that stuff. And then you realize that you have no idea who your kid is until you meet your kid. And you cannot plan for what you're gonna do with them, because they're gonna be a completely different person, and the stuff you plan for them is not gonna work for them. Oh, my dad's an asshole, and he doesn't mean to be an asshole. I think, well, he's undiagnosed, but I think he's severely autistic, like he has Asperger's. And so the problem with people with Asperger's is they don't know how to do things from feeling, because they don't have any. So what they're doing is trying to fake it. And he's like, okay, so I am supposed to love my daughter, so I'm gonna do what I think is the right thing to do. But I never like felt love from him. Like his version of love is, and I know other people that have Asperger's that are like this, like, well, I paid for it, so I love you, right? And he didn't pay for that many things. He was cheap as fuck, right? He paid for, you know, half my undergrad college education, so he loves me. And I even remember when I was like, I don't know, like 16 years old, or no, I must have been like 14 or 15, because I was still like, oh, Christmas presents. And I opened, or no, it was New Year's, because we're Russian. And I opened the present, and it was like a programming book. And I'm like, and I was crying. I was like, you gave me a fucking programming book? And he's like, but this is because this is what you need for your life to survive, to read this programming book. So, I mean, my dad's an asshole, but he did teach me, he's the one that pushed for us to come here, right? He's the one that was always like, doing the right thing and fighting to get ahead. Like, he's very honest, he's very responsible. He's always like, yeah, his ceiling is a lot lower than mine, because his ceiling is to be average, but he reached his ceiling and he's good. And he's got tons of money in the bank. He doesn't spend any of it because, you know, he's gonna be poor forever, but he's got his shit in order, and I have my shit in order. I was always under the assumption that men are supposed to have their shit in order. The problem with me is I somehow went for the opposite, like, because my dad had no emotions and was very like, everything was in order, I now go for wild emotional men. I was sadly mistaken and found out that those men do not have their shit in order. So, gotta pick your poison. I don't know, because it's funny, everyone always tells me like, oh, work it out with your father, but I just don't think there's anything unresolved, because the chip is missing in his brain. It's not like it's blocked, or he had a great parents, as far as I know. My grandparents were nice people. I mean, my grandma was like a little bit of a bitch, but she was like, you know, nothing crazy. Like, they were nice people, unless there was some hidden abuse, which I don't think there was. Like, I think he literally just has a chip missing. So if I went to him and I'm like, Dad, like, I love you, let's work it out, he'd be like, okay. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's anything left to resolve. Sure, I'd love if my mom was alive and she could meet this version of me, and you know, I don't know. Not that I can think of is the answer. The biggest one does have to do with survival, because fun was just not a part of our vocabulary. Like, I think my parents had fun sometimes, but there was no like importance for being with your friends and having fun. And I actually have to work on that to this day, because I just always work. And I'm like, how come I'm not making any plans or having fun? Because it's not wired into me. So with Nicoletta, I think I try to do the opposite, right? Like, yeah, I do want her to be responsible or whatever, but she seems to be a naturally responsible kid. But I like prioritize her being with her friends and having fun and doing the extracurriculars. Yeah, I push her. I always require her to have one thing that she's really into, and she has to go hard on that one thing, but it doesn't have to be fucking math. It could be a thing of her choosing. So if she's not strong in certain things, I don't push her on them. I push her on the things that she's strong on. and I don't think this is my family, this is just how it was in Russia. Like, you learn math and you learn the things that you need to learn. And if you're left-handed, you become right-handed. It was very like a mold, right? It's nice because this environment allows for that also. Obviously, we've come a long way with education, but just really try to be a lot less rigid with her and prioritize fun. I don't think that I ever remember being in a situation where I felt like there wasn't enough. My dad was so responsible and my parents were so responsible that they were really good at living within their means. But it was not meant to be spent. It was meant to be saved. In fact, in Russia, there's a saying, save it for a black day. So we did not spend, and we always lived below our means. It's allowed my dad to have a pretty decent net worth for his, for being, you know, upper middle class. Like, he's worth several million, but he buys his shirts from Costco and saves chicken in the fridge for a month. And he won't go somewhere if the tickets are too expensive. So to answer your question, my earliest memory, I don't know if I have one earliest memory, but it was just not spending on anything ever. We didn't have that. That's the whole point of communism. Nobody had nothing. Everybody stood in the bread lines and it was normal. There was nothing. People stood in the bread lines not because not enough money, but because there wasn't enough bread. So that's, I guess, the positive of communism. No one's poor. I inherited all those beliefs about money until I was about 39, 40 years old, and, you know, got the corporate job and saved my 401k and saved, you know, and always felt broke. No matter how much money I had, I always felt like I didn't have enough. And I remember my ex-husband making fun of me because he has the opposite relationship with money, where he always thinks he has a lot when he doesn't. And he's like, you have enough money to do this. And I was just like, no, I don't. What do you mean? And so I just stacked money, and I had a lot in the bank. And now looking back, I realized that was a pattern that was built early in me. But what happened was, I stacked all this money. I had a nice 401k, and then I had this monster, terrible divorce where everything went like this. And I was like, oh, so it can just all go away. And I had never seen that before, because I watched my parents just stack money all their lives and now have a high net worth. And so it all went away, and I was like, at that point, you just have to like surrender. You're like, all right, something's got to give. But the interesting thing about it was, I still always lived in New York City in a nice apartment. I never had a problem eating food. Somehow I still went to restaurants, maybe not as many, but my lifestyle didn't really change. I had, like, when that divorce happened, I had like nothing. I didn't spend my 401k, but I had no cash, right? And then somehow, I can't even tell you how, it all just came back within, I don't know, like a couple of years, like 2 or 3 years. And so, and then I read this little book. This was like one of my earliest first personal development book, called Rich as Fuck by Amanda Frances. It's like a silly little book, but it's so powerful, and it basically validated all these things that I have just learned. And she said, like, the simplest things in there. She's like, girl, go look in your panty drawer and throw out those dirty fucking panties and go buy yourself new panties. And I was like, I cried. I was like, wait, I'm allowed to do that? And then she's like, go to the store and don't look for the stuff that's on sale. Don't go to Ross or Marshall's. Just go to the store and buy a shirt that you like. And I was like, I'm allowed to do that? And then I like did it, and I didn't go broke, and my life stayed the same. And so I learned that money's not like a pot that you have to save. Money is energy, and the way that you treat money is the way that it'll treat you. I find that people that were poor in America were like, oh, my family didn't have money. We didn't not have money. We just didn't spend any of it. Like, we always lived below our means. there's this misnomer in abundance mindset, like misconception, that just go spend money and it'll come back to you. But people have no sense of, because they didn't grow up around responsibility, of what it means to do that responsibly. So just go spend money doesn't mean don't go look in your bank account or in your investments and just go spend money. It means set aside a certain amount of money and go spend it on whatever the fuck you want. Like, let's say that, you've made $30,000 this month and you've paid your rent and all your bills with 10 of it. That 20, if you want to go buy one Hermes bag, that do you, right? But it does not mean you've made $30,000, so go spend 70, right? And I want to put a caveat to that, because sometimes you do have to spend money that you don't have on investments. So maybe a coaching program, or maybe, some like ads or something like that. But don't go spend $70,000 on a Hermes bag when you've made 30. I've figured out it's not a number. There's no number, because I've made a lot of money and I made a little money. And when I was making a lot of money, I felt more poor. Like, it's a feeling. Rich is a feeling. It's not a number. And I know lots of people that have plenty of wealth that are not rich in their mind. I'm still a work in progress. I think everyone has something in life that they're really meant to overcome. And I really think that mine is money, because all the lessons that the universe has given me are kind of like around money. I'm not saying that I don't have problems with men, but they don't really bother me as much as the money stuff does. Like, it really like hurts my soul when I feel like I don't have enough. And so I still have to really watch not being cheap. So I'll never overspend, but I'll buy stuff that's below what I think I'm worth sometimes. Maybe I won't upgrade my plane ticket because I'm trying to save or something like that. So I really have to watch that. So I think it's life's work, and I don't know if you're ever really cured from like your big thing. But I see the transformations that people get. So they're worth way more than I'm charging. And I've raised my prices a lot lately, but I think I still have some room to go. I think being spiritual is just believing in a greater power, and everything I've learned and everything I teach involves a greater power. I can't say that I have one name. Sometimes I say God, sometimes I say universe. But actually, in The Science of Getting Rich, Wallace Wattles called it the formless substance, and I kind of like that name. There is a formless substance out there that all the ideas come from, that thought comes from, that, when you work on yourself and you have positive emotions, that formless substance works with you, right? And it's kind of collective consciousness and what holds all of us together. And so anybody that believes in that, I think, is spiritual. I think that the body dies and consciousness goes on. That's in, I think, many religions. I don't know that much about any religion except for Buddhism. I know a little bit about Christianity. I'm supposed to be Jewish. I don't know anything about it. But even spiritual teachings that don't belong to any religion kind of say that consciousness is just awareness. It's just I am. And that doesn't really end. So when you die, you basically it's just like going to sleep, but it's not the end. I have a responsibility to this life. And so being responsible to this life puts me in a good position for the next life. So I don't really think about my next life much, but I try to make this one count as much as I can. What you're talking about to me is just patterns. Tony Robbins taught this, and I think it was right on. So people get taught things from society because most people are average. Most people are commoners, right? They don't work on themselves. They don't try to look for truth. They just are kind of like, okay, this is the cards that I was given and this is where I'm going to live. So if you don't work on yourself and transcend, that's what you're given. And if you do that over and over and over and over again, your brain forms patterns and you live in those patterns until you break them. And the longer you live in them, the harder breaking them is. So Napoleon Hill talked about this a lot in Outwitting the Devil. This is basically his version of the devil infiltrating your brain and staying there until you tell him to get out by being experiencing positive emotions, right? And eventually, so you're drifting when that happens. And then once you drift for a long enough time, you can't get out of that anymore, you're stuck. But ultimately, it's your own responsibility to get out of it. And the way you get out of it is not changing the outside world, it's by changing what's inside. I still don't know what it's like to feel rich, but I'm gonna find out. I think purpose is a lot more tactical than people think. It's not just something that comes at you one day. I actually really subscribe to the Japanese term called ikigai, which is loosely translates to reason for being. And it's a bunch of Venn diagrams that you're like, okay, what do you love? What's monetizable? If you just think about it and write it down, you'll get to your purpose in the middle. And yeah, you might have to try a few things. But the problem is people won't dedicate time to try it because they're so busy surviving and trying to make money. If you just, my mentor used to say this, David Nagel, that if you just let go of everything else and move towards your purpose without all the thinking and worrying and stress, you will succeed, because everybody was put on this earth for a reason and everyone has a unique ability. Just like plants and animals, like ants were meant to become construction workers, caterpillars were meant to become butterflies. We all have a purpose. And so our job is to discover it. Ikigai lets you do that with a piece of paper. I mean, sometimes you can just figure it out, but I think it's nicer to be a little analytical about it. I don't think purpose is a choice. I think it's something that you're born with and you have to discover. And it's really hard to discover it yourself because it's really hard to see yourself. Like other people see you and they're like, wow, you're really articulate, or you're really good at this thing. And you're like, wait, I am, but that's so easy. Isn't everyone? Your purpose and your unique ability is something that you don't notice because you've been doing it so well all your life. So it's like sometimes, all the time actually, people actually have to point it out to you. So I think your purpose can be carried out multiple ways. So if you're like, I feel like my purpose is to make people the best versions of themselves. And I've always done it. Like I've done it since I was little, right? I have friends that are just like, oh, like just because I'm around you, I've been doing this better or that better. And I'm just like, I didn't even say anything, right? I didn't have to start Mindset Mastery Tribe to carry out that purpose. I could have, like started a, I don't know, makeup line or something like that. You could do whatever thing that you want, but the mission underneath it is your purpose and your unique ability. Have I ever felt truly lost? I don't remember a time that I was truly lost because I'm just a person that fixes things that are broken. So I was always on a path to whatever is, I think, the better thing for me. So I'm trying to think through, like, in my divorce, was I lost? Yeah, it sucked, but I was still doing things to move forward and get out of it. I've never had a time that I could remember that I just sat there and wallowed. Operating at my highest level is like, well, first of all, I'm not, because the problem with me is I tend to overwork because that's ingrained in me. So when I'm not overworking and I'm fully rested and I'm working on the things I love, which is the Mindset Mastery sessions, the content for Mindset Mastery, maybe I'm like reading something and like something's clicking and things are coming together. And then I go into the tribe and I teach something, and there's always like some little thing that clicks for a person, right? And I see it in their eyes, or they say something, they're like, oh, and I'm like, oh, like I actually helped, I actually made a difference. That happened at the experience when we were talking about how to get rid of desire, and I was oh, you weren't there, but we went through the map of consciousness, and every single consciousness level below power and in force, we talk about how to get rid of it. So we talk about how to get rid of desire, and it was basically like, I know you want this business to grow and I know you want more money, but what's gonna change in your life? Like, we're all the 1%. Like, we're all kind of like relatively high net worth people compared to the rest of the world that have nice houses, lots of food. How is your life gonna change? Maybe you'll go on a couple more vacations. Maybe you'll, buy yourself some nicer clothes, but your life's gonna be the same. And it really clicked for this one member in our group. And I was like, I didn't even realize I did anything. But when I found out, when we talked and we found out that it like changed something for her and it clicked, I was like, oh, I do helps. This is so great. Yeah, so I guess I didn't even think about this, but how I grew up, how everything was in order, like I need order. I need everything to be, my house is always very clean, everything is put away, everything is in its place, right? I have to have, food that nourishes me. I don't need fancy food, but I need high quality food. And I need to move my body and nourish my brain. And I need rest. Like I can't, sometimes I overwork, but when I overwork, I notice and I know that I need to rest. So everything, all that stuff, right? Like food, environment, moving my body, like that has to be in order and it has to have a place in order for me to be able to function. I actually don't put a lot of thought into fashion, but I think what you're talking about is I don't really have a middle ground. Like I'm either in my dirty sweats or I'm all dressed up. And that's just because, like, unless I'm getting all dressed up, I can't really be bothered to get dressed. But when I'm getting all dressed up, then I have standards for how I want to look and, how I want to feel. And so I put a lot of effort into it. But when I'm not putting a lot of effort into it, I don't really put any effort into it.
Awesome. How about, do you see a relationship between physical excellence and mental excellence, or is that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, talk about that.
Well, the outward is a reflection of the inside, right? It all starts on the inside and then it carries out to your body, your appearance, and then the rest of your 3D world. So you have to take care of yourself and you have to look like you give a shit about yourself. And it makes you feel better anyways. And, a healthy body usually looks better. And it's the same discipline, right? It's the same order and discipline that you have to have for all aspects of your life. If there's no order with the way you treat your body, there's no order in the rest of your life. I think most people just conform. Again, that those neurons and synapses get wired so hard that they're like, this is life, and they stop evolving. But I think you have to just always be striving to evolve your life, get better, learn more, be moving up instead of be moving sideways. And people are just so, first of all, it's a completely normal human trait to like comfortability, live in the same place, have the same job, do all the same stuff all your life. And if anything changes and it's like, oh, I hate my husband or my wife, but I don't want to get divorced because we've been married 20 years. Well, but you were only here for like one lifetime. So try to make the best of it. So if you don't like something, get rid of it and find something better. It doesn't make me not a businesswoman. I would start another business and I would still be a mother and I would still be a leader, right? It's like if my mission in life is to make people the best versions of themselves, how else can I do that? It's not really anything that I'm trying to prove, but more like, this is so fun for me, right? Of course, I want to prove to myself that I've transcended the limitations of my parents and communist Russia and be successful and like have fun working instead of going to work and grinding. But it's really just doing that. Like I wake up and I do work, but I'm like, oh my God, it's not work. Like, this is just fun. I feel like I'm not like when you're a kid and you watch your parents grow up and go to work, you're like, oh, I have to do that. Now I don't have to do that anymore. I just like drop my kid off at school and then come back and have fun because I'm building this business that I love. So that's what it's really about. It doesn't feel like you're working, you're just having fun. Because I've really embraced Wallace Wattles in the Science of Getting Rich when he said that there is no competition on the creative plane. Somebody could go, and I'm sure they have, somebody could go start a Mindset Mastery Tribe and attract completely different people because they have completely different energy. So I don't think I have any competition from that perspective. No. I think Americans don't work hard and don't have a concept of what it means to work hard. Alex Hormozy talks a lot about this. And yeah, I think that there's a kind of a inflection point where you're killing yourself by working hard. But the reason that you're killing yourself working hard is because you don't like what you're doing. But if you like what you're doing and you're working a lot and you're working hard, that's completely acceptable, right? I don't see that culture of working hard in the US. If you ask most people, what's your ultimate goal? Oh, my goal is to just sit on a beach chair in the Caribbean or whatever, sail away on a boat. Okay, well, that's cool. And then after you do that for a year, aren't you gonna get bored? So it's like when you're in your unique ability and in your purpose, you probably want to be doing that for the rest of your life. Because guess what? When you retire, you kind of start to die, right? What are you going to do? Like travel? Okay, you can travel, but then you come back from your trip. And then what are you going to do? Like you have to have something that you like and like a mission on this earth. Oh, she'd be like, wow, you really didn't follow the plan. This is way different than it seemed like you were going to turn out. I just, I had the plan set out for me back then and it turned out very different. The reason that I talk about growing your business and replacing your income and all that stuff is because you got to sell to people the way that they want to be sold. And before someone understands programming and understands what it is they actually believe, they're going to be like, what is this fluffy shit? I have a business and I just need to make money. So yes, you will have a big, beautiful business and you will make lots of money, but the important part isn't that. That's just a result based on changing who you become. They have a business that it doesn't feel like work. They're in their unique ability. They're having fun every day. They're working hard, but they're relaxed and they're leading. The world needs more leaders, right? It's like, oh, there's too many consultants and coaches. No, there's not enough good ones. There's not enough leaders because people desperately need other people to lead them to their best outcome. And as a result of this, they're making lots of money. Like I'm going to have alumni making, well into the 7 figures. And yeah, so I should probably raise my prices.